Hi everyone, welcome back to Media Yasa Persada channel with me Koko here, and today we would like to discuss about one of the learning method that's sometimes considered less familiar by most teachers in Indonesia, but indirectly there are also so many teachers that have been implemented this kind of method. We would like to discuss about Suggestopedia. Without any further notes, let's jump into the main materials. Well, have you heard about Suggestopedia before? This foreign language learning method is actually introduced by one of the Bulgarian psychologists and educators in 1975, which is George Lozanov. At the past, George believed that children or students will mostly set the psychological barriers such as fear, not confidence with yourself, which will certainly affecting their ability to absorb the materials of learning or during learning process. So at that point, George Lozanov also developed the foreign language learning method that focus on the suggestion for children or students who have negative feelings or negative mindset of yourself, as well as provide positive suggestion to motivate the children and also the student. Actually, Suggestopedia comes from the word suggestion, which literally means giving influence, giving beliefs and impression on something, especially for children and students positively. So what is Suggestopedia? Suggestopedia is a type of learning method that provides suggestion, impression, motivation, and also a lot of positive insight for the student with the aim of maximizing the learning process and the result so that students understand more and better with the materials presented by the teacher. Well, according to Philamin, there are 9 characteristics of Suggestopedia, such as first, it uses the power of suggestion to help students eliminate the feelings that they cannot succeed. For example, the feeling of anxiety, the feelings of not confidence with yourself, which will affecting their ability to absorb the materials. The second, there should be a relaxed, comfortable environment and soft music to facilitate learning, because according to Lozanov, he believed that by implementing a certain music, it can increase the student concentration during the learning process. The next is, students should use their imagination. For example, during the learning process, teacher will give the students such kind of instruction and description about something. At that point, children need to use their imagination to think and imagine about what the teacher description about. The next point is explain grammar and vocabulary but not discuss at length and shortly. It means that teacher also can give a student the explanations of a certain topic, but teacher also need to give the space for the children to ask a question and explore the materials by themselves. The next is native language translation is used to get the precise meaning of words, which means that teacher also need to provide a certain translation if there is any word or sentences that it's hard for the children to understand. The next point is communication takes place in the conscious and subconscious of the learners. For the next point is teaching is done by integrating music, song, and drama. In this point, after the teacher explained about the materials briefly, the student can explore the materials even more by practicing lots of activities such as in the dialogue with their partners in drama, or sing a song, or through storytelling. For the next point is the emphasis of formal tests are given, but the evaluation is done during the typical in-class performance. For the last point is the emphasis of teaching is more on content, which means that teacher also need to provide the suitable content such as books or another guideline during the learning process for the children. For the next, we would like to discuss about how could we applicate or implement the Suggestopedia learning method. There are 3 stages of the application or the implementations of Suggestopedia, such as first is presentation. In this stage, teachers should be give a certain suggestion, the positive suggestion, to the children if they are feeling uncomfortable with the class or if they have any kind of negative mindset. The teacher can create a certain tagline, for example, like the learning process will be fun and the learning process will be happy, to motivate to motivate the children that the learning process will be fun and happy. For the second stage is concert. In this stage, teacher need to present the materials briefly to the children or the student in the form of story or a dialogue. In this stage, teacher also need to play some music to increase the student concentration during the learning process that match with the topic that the teacher and the student discuss. For the last step is practice. In this stage, teacher can allow the children or student to explore more about the materials. For example, through games and also through dialogue or dialogue practice with your friends. And how about the example of the applications of Suggestopedia? As what you can see on the screen, there are two types of example of how could we apply and implement Suggestopedia method during learning process. The first is through role play practice or through dialogue, and the second one is through fairy tales or traditional story. If the teacher would like to implement one of these methods, teacher should consider several aspects, such as first, the teacher should decorate the class based on the topic discussed. The second, the teacher present the materials briefly. It could be based on the textbooks or so on. For the next step is teacher need to play suitable music that match with the materials. For example, if the teacher discuss about environment, it means teacher need to play some music that give a vibes of the children that they are in the forest. The next is teacher need to pair the student in the role play practice with their friends and then let them imagine something related with the environment. In this case, teacher also need to give some instruction and description about where they are now, what they are doing, about their role in the forest or in environment. After the children already imagine about all of those and teacher thinks that it's enough to give description, a teacher can allow the student to create some dialogue with their friends about a certain topic related with environment. For example, how could they save their environment and so on. Back into fairy tales, after the teacher play the music, teacher can read a certain stories about the fairy tales with emotion and feelings. After that, teacher can ask the children about several questions to test whether they are still listening or not. At the end of the class, teacher can give also the student the conclusion about several points in the story, as well as question whether they understand the story or not, as well as the message that they got from the story, and to test their vocabularies that they got from the stories. Well, those are my presentations about Suggestopedia learning method. As a conclusion, I truly believe that if a school or a teacher implemented this kind of method in a certain time, it will certainly give a great improvement of the children's ability to absorb the materials more, and also increase your ability to understand more, especially about foreign language. Thank you so much for your nice attention.